Loz and Alex cruise around this lucky country in a Volkswagen, entertaining their legion of social media fans with cool pics of themselves sitting by campfires, swimming in deserted beaches, and camping by the shores of remote lakes. They look like they've fallen off the cover of an Angus and Julia Stone album. Oh, and did I tell you they run a 3-year-old hat business called Will and Bear that's turning over a lazy 6 figures annually? And they've done it all by slowing down. It's episode 468 of the award-winning Small Business Big Marketing Show that's brimming with marketing gold, thanks to digital marketing agency Yellow and American Express.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reed.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of marketing magnificence. I'm your host, Timbo Reed. You, infinitely more importantly, you're a motivated business owner, ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. Today's episode 468 is made possible thanks to digital marketing agency Yellow and American Express business cards, which are designed for business owners just like you. Guess what? Big show today. We catch up with Loz Williams, aka Loz, and Alex Knorr, who seem to have their dream business well and truly worked out, selling hats from the back of a combi van as they travel around Australia. I let you know about a new podcast I'm launching. Yes, you heard right, a new podcast coming out of these studios. And a highly motivated listener who, thanks to this show, has figured out how to nail his marketing copy. And he wins over $1,000 worth of prizes in this week's Monster Prize Draw. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Hey, be sure to stick around after this interview and I'll tell you about the new podcast I'm launching. It's exciting. I'm excited about it. So hopefully that means you'll be excited about it. It's pretty good. And guess what? It's going to help your business grow. But right now, let's meet a couple who are absolutely smashing it, speaking of helping or making your business grow. In just 3 years, ex-mortgage broker Loz Williams and her product designing boyfriend Alex Knorr have built the online hat empire called Will and Bear from the back seat of their Volkswagen van while touring around Australia. To do so, they've adopted an innovative digital-first business model which has enabled the Will and Bear brand to experience, guess what, triple-digit sales growth year on year. 3 years in a row. Pretty good, huh? They use social media brilliantly, amassing a loyal tribe of hat lovers across Instagram and Facebook. They've got a team that spans the globe and a sustainability initiative that sets them apart from the competition. They also give some pretty good insights into how this generation of millennial business owners sees things. And here's the tip. It's not all about growing an empire. Oops, got that wrong. Notebooks out, team, as they school us on how to start a business and build one in the 21st century. And I started off by asking them how they met.
On Tinder, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just like that. Who swiped right? Well, you must have. I'm trying to figure that one out. One of you swiped right.
Yeah, I wonder who did it first. We actually have no idea. But it did take me about a month to reply to him.
Really?
Yeah.
Playing hard to get, or just kind of thought he's a bit weird?
No, well,
in
the process of him swiping and saying, hey, I was like, I'm over Tinder. I got to get rid of it.
Right.
And then I started it back up and I was like, that guy looks pretty cute. Maybe I should say hey.
Love it. Love it. Alex, got anything to add to that? You're being very quiet.
No, I'm wondering what she was going to say. That's good.
You mean you guys live in a van and you haven't had this conversation yet? You must be running out of things to say.
No.
There's always things to say. We talk about hats quite a lot.
No doubt. No doubt.
That's why conversations.
That's why we're here. Now listen, you both escaped the cubicle. One was a mortgage broker, the other a product designer. What were you thinking at the time?
Yeah, I mean, For me, I was working freelance design pretty early on in my career. I switched up out of the 9 to 5 pretty early, and I kind of got used to that lifestyle. So, and I got sort of working as a freelance designer, I just got to see the back end of lots of different businesses, which was really nice, and got to work with founders and marketing managers. And so I got contact with a lot of different people and a lot of businesses, and that kind of gave me like a really good insight to how these sort of businesses run.
And Loz, you're selling mortgages, so you needed to get out. You were bored.
Yeah, that's about right. I'd actually been at the bank for 10 years by the time that I'd left, and it was very different to what I do now. But like looking back since we started Will and Bear, there's so much of what I learnt there that I kind of brought across to Will and Bear business wise, and I do a lot of the admin and the finance stuff for business, so it did actually help. But I don't know if I could go back to mortgage.
Well, I guess the reality is, no matter where you are in the world and where you're running your business from, some of the the fundamentals are the fundamentals. Whether you're sitting in a mahogany office in a bank, or whether you're sitting in the back of a shagpile covered combi van, which I'm sure it isn't shagpile carpet, but that's the vision I have in my mind. I actually have a soundtrack playing for you guys, which is kind of like Xavier Rudd, Follow the Sun, kind of maybe a bit of Angus and Julia.
Yeah, that sounds
Big Jet
about
Plane.
right.
Have I got it?
Yeah.
Good. Now, the impetus for starting a business together, you guys meet on Tinder, you fall madly in love. Where'd the idea to go into business together come from?
So it was actually like about 6 months after we met, we went on our first holiday together. And so we went to Tasmania. It was the middle of summer. And I'd always worn hats, and I brought my hat, and I noticed that Alex didn't have one, and I was like, you need a hat. Like, it's like so hot. We're in Tassie. It's going to be too hot to not have one.
Was it about 12 degrees, was it?
Pardon?
I said, was it about 12 degrees, the middle of summer
Yeah,
in Tassie?
it was getting over 12. It was getting real hot in Tassie.
We were living in Melbourne at the time, so yeah.
Yes, okay.
We weren't used to the hot weather.
Yeah.
Nothing like Noosa, mate.
No, I know that. Yeah, so Alex not wearing a hat, you're thinking, hey, we could start a hat company.
Well, I actually found it quite difficult to find one so I explored all the brands and I couldn't find one that I really connected with.
What do you mean connected, Alex?
Oh, I mean exploring all the other brands out there.
Yeah.
So when he was trying, we went to a few different shops, and as he was trying them on, it was really obvious that he wasn't really confident to try the big ones on. And he kind of, I could tell that he felt a little bit weird even picking the hat up to try it on, or there wasn't a brand that we knew or that we felt comfortable with. And it was just kind of, I think it was that process that got something ticking in our brain that was like, oh, that's so strange. Like, we wear hats. It's like, you need them in Australia. Mm-hmm. Isn't it so strange that we don't know a hat brand that we would go and buy a hat from, or the fact that Alex wasn't really comfortable to even try them on? Mm-hmm. That was where the initial kind of idea came from, was like, okay, that started thinking.
We're talking, 3 years ago, 2016. So was the hat market, Loz, back then, I don't know what the market's like. Was it a crowded market?
It's not a huge market in Australia, to be honest. There's a couple of really big brands that have been around forever, but for the younger market, for the market that we were looking in, it wasn't really wasn't huge. And there was a couple other brands that we found about that were kind of more fashion based. And I mean, we wanted a hat for practical reasons, but we didn't want to spend $300 on our first hat because we weren't committed hat wearers back then like we are now.
So you didn't have any other ideas? You didn't have a big whiteboard and trying to brainstorm what business can we go into? It was hats from day one.
It was just, hey, well, what happened was after we bought the hat, because Alex is a photographer and we both love being outdoors, and we bought the hat and we started taking these amazing photos of Tasmania wearing the hat outdoors, and we're like, you know what? There should be a brand that connects nature to hats and encourages people to be outdoors and look after the environment, because that's the place you need your hat in. Mm-hmm. So that was where the idea really kind of was cemented.
Okay, so you go, let's do a hat business. You leave your jobs. What do you do first? I mean, Alex, you're a designer. Did you put a few designs down, or did you just simply go and buy some hats from somewhere?
It wasn't that simple, because we couldn't actually leave our jobs at the start. We were still working full time. I was working almost 12 months in, still working, to starting the business. And then Loz was still working about 6 months in.
So this is a side hustle.
Side hustle, yes. And we
Yeah.
had a few other side hustles going. So there was very minimal sleep, lots of coffee. Lots of
Awesome.
late
What
nights.
were your other side hustles, Loz?
So I was doing the mortgage broking, and then I was also doing social media marketing. So I had I'd started that for one other brand.
Yep.
And we started doing it pretty early on to kind of test the concept of Will and Bear as well.
Mm-hmm.
So before we launched, a few things that we did was obviously we started sampling pretty quickly, and Alex had a really good idea because we thought Will and Bear was a great idea, hats, nature, we'll do nice photos, and it made sense to us, but we wanted to kind of see if everyone else liked the idea. So we started a social media account called Babes in Hats, probably maybe 6 months out from launching. And I was spending a lot of hours on that every day, kind of testing the photos we want to use, the messaging, if people even wanted to see people in nature with hats. So that took up a lot of time before we launched as well.
That's a great idea. So that is a bit of a testing ground simply for the idea. What are we talking?
It just gave us the ability to see what photography styles worked, what messaging worked, what worked in terms of growing your account and following easier, engagement, all that sort of stuff. So what our audience would really like.
Yeah, and it actually, we didn't plan for it, but because we had, 6 months before the business to kind of talk to people, we ended up making a lot of friendships, and there's a lot of ambassadors that we work with that we met through that account that are still out frolicking in Will and Bear hats.
What did you learn from that 6 months with Babes in Hats?
No,
we learnt to be real.
And authentic.
And to tell a story instead of just putting pretty people in hats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So people like the real stuff, which is why we now tell our story from the road. And it's the whole concept of the brand is hey, this is us. Anyone can be part of this brand. It's really inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big thing for us to be an inclusive brand. And I think authentic storytelling was always a big part of that. I think what we learned really from Babes in Hats also was who we wanted our almost brand ambassadors to be. So we worked out a key market pretty strongly in photographers, and that was what we set out to do once we launched.
Yeah, so as soon as we launched, we sent about 100 hats out to our favourite photographers all over the world, and we said, look, you don't need to do anything for us. We just want our hats on amazing photographers because that's what we love, and that really helped build the story of Will and Bear. Now it's kind of a lot of the people that buy our hats are photographers, which means that we get this epic stream of content that we can share. That's
a great idea. So just let me understand that. In order to launch, you identified your 100 favourite photographers in the world, sent them a hat.
Yeah, and we just sent them all a hat and said, we don't want anything, just want your hat, just want our hats on your heads. And then, of course, they ended up in photos, and we're still friends with a lot of them. We've done some trips with some of them, and it was it was really good in the end.
What a great idea.
Thanks.
Yeah, so it seemed natural for us because we're both very creative, and we gravitate towards these people. So some of these people were almost our heroes in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing who actually you'd see a post come through a month or two later, and you'd be stoked. You'd be oh my God, this person.
It was so exciting.
So yeah, and as Loz said, we're friends with a lot of them now, and we're all kind of working together, which is great.
Just understanding the logistics of that for others who may want to do, because I'm a big fan of asking. I think so many small business owners, we don't ask because we're too scared of hearing a no.
Well, do you know what? At the start, I was scared. I'm oh my God, we're so small. They're so cool, and I had everyone up on a pedestal. But one of the biggest lessons I've learned from social media is everyone's a person, just like us. Everyone's just a person. Most people are nice.
Yes, well said.
Yeah, no matter how many followers you've got or what coolest people are in the photos, everyone's really willing to basically help small business.
Yeah, well said.
Too.
Just understanding the logistics of the Instagram idea and sending the photographers, what did you do? Did you reach out to each of your photographers and say, hey, I want to send you a hat. Can you direct message me your address? Is that kind of how simple it was?
For some of them, but a lot, because I had the idea of doing that pretty early on when we started Babes in Hats, I kind of started forming relationships first. So I would, follow them, make sure I was commenting on all of their photos, and then I'd start a conversation and I wanted to become friends with them, a lot of them as well, and talk about their travels and what they do and what they'd like to get out of things as well. So a lot of them I tried to make a really personal effort with before we launched the brand. So when we launched, it wasn't just completely out of the blue. So there was a lot of time in like relationship building at the start too.
That's the classic, Gary Vaynerchuk, the social media guy out of the States. It's the classic jab, 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 right hook strategy, where you're like...
Oh, it's just jab, jab, jab.
Yeah.
And the right hook is the hat.
That's exactly right. So you're giving, and then the right hook comes in and goes, hey, we're going to send you a hat. Put a photo out of it. We really love that.
We were like, it was something that we thought about after we launched it, of like, obviously we loved that it was hats because we loved hats, but we were really lucky in the fact that we had a product that if you were in a photo and you were wearing it, it was so easy for the hat to be in the photo. Like, you didn't have to take a photo of your foot and it didn't look awkward. Like hats just naturally are in photos because they're on your head.
I had a chat. I mean, your product is made for social media. A previous guest a few weeks ago was Victoria Beattie from the Beach People. She's the inventor of the round beach towel. And again, just such her social media marketing was so easy because everyone wanted to take a photo of themselves on their round beach towel down the beach. And
they nailed it.
Yep, they absolutely nailed it.
They are smashing it, aren't they? So, so we've tested it. Babes in Hats has worked. Lots of great feedback. You've sent off 100 hats to your top 100 photographers around the world. You're getting some action on social media there. You launch the company, and what happens?
Nothing.
Oh, there's a few crickets.
I love it. Love a cricket.
Our family bought a few hats.
One of the best stories of when we started was we had a small market in Melbourne, and we were like, there wasn't much activity online.
I was so nervous. I think I like couldn't function. I was like, oh my God.
And I made my entire family of like 6 people in Melbourne made them come, and then I made 3 of them buy a hat. And we sold 5 hats the entire weekend.
And his mum doesn't even wear hats.
Love it. Oh, bless her. She bought it for a present for him. You could easily lose hope in that, and clearly not. I mean, it's a long game, right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if we didn't really know it was long. We didn't know what to think at the start.
Well, it was kind of like, it was funny because it was, compared to now, it was crickets. But if we got one sale, we were like so excited that it didn't feel like crickets. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like, oh my God, someone we don't know bought our hat, and it was so crazy.
Such a great feeling.
Then it kind of like, so it probably took the first year, so we launched in Feb, and then it was kind of ticking along, nothing crazy. And then we started doing the Finders Keepers markets. Have you heard of them?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. So they're really big markets in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. And we did one of them in October after we launched, so maybe like 8 months later. And that went bananas. Went really good. It was like the most hats we've ever sold.
What do you think you did there, Loz, that you hadn't done elsewhere?
Oh, I think they've been building that market for years, and it's just they've got such an amazing customer base that come. Like, how many people come to that market?
Up to 50,000 over the weekend.
Yeah, so I think it was just visibility. Like, we didn't have any visibility, because we were so new. We were doing these tiny little markets, but then all of a sudden, all of these people were in front of us, and that they could see the product, and we knew that we had a good product. So I think it was just like the visibility that we got at that market.
Yeah, and good timing. It was spring coming into summer. So, I mean, and Melbourne was ready for it at the time. So we're a small brand with a good product, and we invested pretty heavily into doing a nice market stall setup after our first.
Yeah, we got the biggest market stall you can.
After our first attempt at that small market that I talked about earlier, it was pretty drab, to be honest. We went again, and we went harder. And we did a nice, beautiful setup. So it was like we invested some money and time into that.
And I think it was also like the whole time we were doing those markets, there wasn't once another store that was selling the same hats as us. So there was no one else doing it, which I think really helped.
At what point do you decide to go online and create an e-commerce play?
Well, that was there from the start. So
that's where most of the crickets were.
That's where most of the. Yeah, right. The tumbleweeds were rolling through that part of the business.
Yeah.
No, we set ourselves up. Like, I have done e-commerce sites for clients before, worked on web design as well. So when you said product design, I started in product design and transitioned across more to branding and sort of web graphic design. I just sort of slowly transitioned myself. So I had a bit of experience in that. I'd set up a WooCommerce store on WordPress, and we hadn't really got our handle around online advertising at the stage. So we were kind of just we kind of built this site, and it was really nice and beautiful. It was really hard to use on the back end and actually upload our products and stuff like that. So it was a bit difficult to run for us, but we kind of built it and just left it.
Yeah. So this market happened. Summer came around. We partnered with the store, and we had a few of our hats in a newspaper, and we got a bit of publicity there.
A newspaper, The Age.
The Age.
That's a good newspaper to get partnered to get some exposure in.
Well, yeah. So the Age started the store, and then they had. We opened up the paper one day, and there was a double-page spread of one of our photos, and we were like,
"Wow!"
That's good.
And then that summer, it kind of kicked off, and then we started doing digital marketing and started doing a bit more of the storytelling, and it started flowing. And then we went and did a trade show and got I think within 6 months we got 50 new retailers, and it just kind of started expanding from there.
Okay. No more crickets.
Yeah, no more crickets.
How's your cash flow management going? It's certainly not my strong suit. For the first few years of business, I thought my accountant told me to spend more than I earned. Got that wrong, didn't I? Fortunately, American Express business cards are built specifically with business owners just like you and I in mind. Their cards can be used to pay for everyday business purchases, helping you manage your business's cash flow whilst earning rewards along the way. Both their credit and charge cards provide up to 51 days interest-free, reward points that you can convert to travel, gift cards, or pay down the balance on your card. Plus, some of their cards are tailored for you to earn Qantas or Virgin Australia points directly. Gotta love that. We all need a bit of a holiday, I reckon. To find out more and get your cash flow under control, Google Amex Business after the show. Thanks to American Express and Yellow, we're chatting with Loz and Alex. They're lovers, digital nomads, and founders of the very cool hat label Will and Bear. Now, first try at van life, I understand, was a bit of a big failure. So you spent a year establishing yourselves in Byron Bay. Is that right?
Yeah. So, we were in Melbourne, and we used to travel in our van quite a bit, and we decided we wanted to do it full time. But we just made the decision and kind of jumped into the van. We didn't think about the logistics of running the business or having the van set up to be able to run the business well. So it was pretty tough, actually.
When you say you just decided to hop in you clearly you like to go off on weekends and do some vanning. You're running your business out of Melbourne. What did you just think? Hey, we'll pack up and hit the road.
That was pretty much it.
Well, yeah, and we were travelling a lot for these bigger markets that we were doing. So they're largely across the East Coast. Mm-hmm. So Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. So we were like, well, okay, kind of fits with that. So we kind of packed everything up, bought a trailer for our van.
Carried our hats in the back of the trailer.
Carried our stock up and down the East Coast for a while. So, but we didn't actually figure out that, being in it was a vintage van, and we didn't realise the complexity of breakdowns and reliability on being having deadlines for a market and being on time. We just had to work all that stuff out. It became very stressful. So we ended up, but just before we moved to Byron, we ended up in Melbourne for a trade show, and we were living in a van. It was the middle of winter, and we were sleeping in thermals in one of our friends' backyards in our van. And we were kind of like, you know what? We don't have to be anywhere. What are we doing here at the moment? What are we doing with our lives?
Yeah.
So we decided to move to Byron and kind of settle for a little bit and work it out. Mm-hmm. And
What did you work? What did you work out in Byron that then allowed you to do what you're doing now, which is you're back on the road running $1 million hat business?
Well, at the start, we were like, okay, cool. We're going to settle down. We're going to get an office. We're going to get full-time employees. We're going to get everything running. And then we went to Africa.
Yeah, so we donate to tree planting projects over in Africa. We went to visit them last year. This was mid setting up the business in Byron. Mm-hmm. So we thought, like, we got to Byron, we thought we had to get an office. We thought we had to do all the things that we saw every other business do, and that includes hiring full-time employees. Mm-hmm. So we then had a trip scheduled to Africa, which was a really amazing trip to see these tree planting projects we donate to. Mm-hmm. So we got back from that, and we were it was a really humbling experience. We just decided that we didn't need to grow like we were growing.
So we didn't need to say yes to everything just because we thought we kind of had to. Like, I think we got back and we were like, okay, cool. Maybe we don't need everything we think we need, and maybe we don't need to be as big just for the sake of being big as a business. So, like, we kind of sat back, and it was the first time since we had the business that we, like, had space to kind of evaluate where we want it to go, what we want to do, how we want it to benefit us as individuals as well.
When you had that, that's beautiful. When you had that realization that you don't need to say yes to everything, you know, you don't need to build an empire. Did you find that your business went to another level?
Yes. And then the empire started building. No, I'm kidding. But no, it did, because it was flowing, because we were kind of we were happier. And we weren't doing everything like because we were like, you know, out of fear. We weren't saying yes because we thought it wasn't going to work. We were saying no because it's okay if that bit doesn't work. So
just to be clear, because one of you said it did go well, the other one said it didn't. It clearly, it sounds like the business, however you want to measure it, it was a better business for you both as a result of making 100%. That decision.
No, we both agree. Yeah,
we
went better.
Definitely both agree. So
I said
it's better for us, and the business is actually going better.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So do you, because you've had triple-digit growth year on year, does that concern you? Do you sometimes think, how do we put the brakes on? It's getting too big?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what we did last year. So when we made that decision of, okay, we don't need to keep growing, because we don't want to have a business that we can't maintain ourselves, and we're only 2 individuals. So we did slow things down, and we're like, okay, cool. Online can grow as much as we want because we have our warehouse that's all set up. We know the figures, and we're like, okay, cool. We've already got 120 wholesale stores. Let's just cap that. We don't need to get bigger in wholesale, because that creates much more work for us. So it's like we're only allowing ourselves to grow in the sections that are simpler for the business.
What a great relief. You know, so many business owners just chasing growth. Go. And you guys have kind of...
We got one really good bit of advice once, remember? So when we were... We met some friends. Well, we were staying in Airbnb, and it was the people who owned a little brand in Byron, and they said that the one thing that they could tell us for all the business, all the time everything they've learned in their business is don't get too big, like be small and sustainable, and don't get too big.
But that was not a one-off too. Like, we heard that more and more as we went along from other businesses, and I think that's kind of what gave us the confidence to actually make that decision and just be like, yep, that's it.
Hey, do you mind if I ask how old you guys are?
31.
Okay. So here comes a question from an old guy. Is that a millennial thing that you just talked about? Where
I think maybe, because maybe like we're thinking more about like our quality of life over like the business. I'm not sure. Like, maybe the mindset's different.
Well, I don't know. Can you make it?
Yeah, what do you reckon?
Yeah, what do you think?
I think if I look at my generation of friends and colleagues and the business owners that I've spoke to, I'm 52, and I would say that growth, you know, you wouldn't hear what you just talked about earlier of, you know, not saying yes to everything and you know, not being as big as possible is not a conversation that happens in my generation, or at least not often. It's a conversation I hear more and more. You know, in my kids' generation, my kids are like early 20s, and they're much more interested in a quality of life, in sustainability, in managing the planet, and living an authentic life. And they probably see their parents who've worked their rings off and don't want to be like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably a really good point.
I'd say
you're spot on.
Yeah. Described us, mate. And I think a lot of people like our age, like, it's hard not to get sucked into the property market and all that sort of hype. But I've made the decision to sort of stay away from that a little bit in the sense that so I could do something like this. So there are some social pressure that you get from general society around that, but I decided to go down this path. And
well, we actually were like the money that we used to start Will and Bear could have been towards a house deposit.
Yes.
Because we used our own cash. So we thought this was a better investment.
Yeah. So, guys, you're in Byron, you've had your epiphanies, you've got yourself sorted out. It's time to hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more. Thank you very much. I was going to sing that, but that wouldn't have been good.
Sounds so simple.
Yeah, I know. Like, please interrupt and say, hang on, Timbo, you're kind of kidding yourself there. There was a lot more. I mean, where were the complications before you hit the road or when you hit the road for the second time?
Oh, my God.
So because we'd learnt so much from living in the van the first time, the first thing that we wanted to set up was like, okay, if we're going to live in the van, how do we actually work? How do we manage a team? How do we like live and have time off in the van and all this stuff? So one of the first things was setting up, like making sure we had the right team members. So we've always been really big in outsourcing the things we can't do or the things that we're not great at because there's no point us wasting our time. So we first made sure that we had like one dedicated team member who could also work remotely from wherever they are in the world for each aspect of the business that we wanted managed by someone else. Mm-hmm. So that was the first thing that we set up.
So we've got a wholesale manager in Byron. We've got a designer in Norway. We've got
PR agent in LA.
In LA, yeah.
A web dev in Melbourne, digital marketing in Melbourne, supply chain in Palm Beach. And there we set it up so every one of those staff members are on contract and they can work from wherever. So the whole team is kind of living the ethos that we are living.
A couple of questions around that team. That's fascinating. So you got a team all over the world. How have you found them? Like literally, how have you gone about finding them?
So
I mean logistically. How have you found them on a site like Upwork?
Most of them we've actually found through friends.
Yeah,
friends of friends.
Recommendations.
Yeah, and they've slowly like so. Some of them have been with us a bit longer. But yeah, apart from the designer, the rest of them we've found through friends of friends, which is quite easy when we were in Byron because there's such a huge network of people doing really similar stuff.
Okay, so you've got them all over the world. Are they a team that talks to each other? Have you met each one of them?
Some of them have, some of them haven't. Mm-hmm. Most of them have because a lot of them were started in Byron and then moved away.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you got your team all over the world. What other hurdles did you have to conquer in order for van life to be awesome?
Well, we ended up restoring the van. Because we lived in the van previously, we had some upgrades we needed to do, we thought.
So we wanted to make it feel amazing, like a space we wanted to be in instead of a tiny little van.
So describe it to us. Take us on a tour of the van.
All right, so we've got two front seats that also turn around to face the back when you want to turn it into a lounge room.
Yeah, love
Behind the back seats, there's a bench that has a kitchen, so a little sink, a full functioning fridge. And then behind that, there's like little wardrobes that we can keep all of our food and our clothes in. Mm-hmm. And Alex has built me a section for all of my candles and crystals when I need to calm down and meditate.
Alex, you are a romantic.
Originally, we're like, you know what? We'll give ourselves a month. We'll just restore the van in a month and then we'll hit the road in January. We ended up hitting the road in May and the van took 6 months.
Turns out you got to do way more sanding than I thought.
Right.
To repaint the van too.
Tip number 3. Don't underestimate the sanding.
Yeah.
So okay, we're on the road. Everything's you've overcome that. What's van life like these days for you?
Yeah,
it's been great.
It's amazing. We find that like we just want to get away from everything and just by ourselves mostly. It's really interesting. Like we find it really nice just to be remote and just sort of on our own.
I think one of the reasons we like that so much is because the decision that we made to not say yes to everything and to kind of make decisions for our own life is easier to make when you're kind of not influenced by it as much. And when we're out in nature, it reminds us just to kind of be truer to our decisions.
Nice.
And ourselves. Yeah.
So how do you actually run the business? So it's all very well to have a nice van and be cruising around Australia.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's still going, by the way.
So we have we use a program called Asana.
Yeah.
And so I'll set all of our staff members are on there and we set up tasks probably 3 to 6 months in advance, everything that has to be done. Obviously, those timeframes change, but just so everyone knows what's happening. And then I'll jump in probably twice a week to talk to everyone to make sure they're cool. And then probably once a week have a call with each staff member as well to make sure that everything's all good.
All the hats are warehouse now, obviously somewhere central. I think, did you say Melbourne?
Sydney.
Sydney.
Yeah.
So you're not carrying you haven't got a trailer. You're not doing markets anymore. It's 100%.
No, well, that was one big thing actually. So we decided that we can't do any events for the year that we're living in the van because otherwise there's timelines, and if the van breaks down, it's just going to add stress, and we don't want to have to be in any capital cities for too long. So no events this year.
One of the many reasons I do this show is to help your business get found online, which is a little bit like finding a needle in a haystack. Your business is the needle and the haystack is the internet. So why not improve your chances of getting found by listing on Yellow Online, Australia's #1 online directory, receiving over 5.2 million searches every month by people looking for stuff that possibly you sell. Like, I'm guessing with that many searches, there'd have to be, at the very least, a handful of peeps wanting your product or service, right? And guess what? Listing on Australia's largest online directory is free. So you don't really have any excuses. After the show, head over to yellow.com.au to give yourself the best shot at getting found online. Thanks to American Express and Yellow. We're chatting with Loz and Alex, who are the founders of the Will and Bear hat label. Let's talk marketing. What's been the most effective marketing you guys have done to date?
Storytelling through social media, definitely. So
what's that look like?
A lot of the, like what we spoke about earlier, was like a lot of the, I think the reason that our marketing works is because it's like, if it's not a story on what me and Alex are doing, it's a story on what maybe some of our ambassadors are doing and what they're doing in the hats. So it's kind of less about the hats and more about the lifestyle. So
give us an example, maybe the most popular post you did on Insta or Facebook in regards to storytelling.
The most popular posts are always the ones from our van life, when our van's broken down. People love it when something goes wrong and you tell them. It's so strange.
Just very personal
real stuff,
stories.
yeah.
Real stuff.
And we're talking, so just paint a picture, Loz, like it's a photo. Underneath, you've told a bit of a story of where you are and what's going on.
Yeah, so one of the ones that did the best was actually when we started the trip, we did a Instagram versus reality post, and it was a really pretty picture of us and our van and the sunset, and then next to it was a picture of our van with no canopy on our roof because the wind had blown the canopy off and we had a convertible van, and it was just telling the story of how like the photos that you see are so different to what happens in the background.
Yes.
That was one of our best posts.
What do you think about that? I've looked at your social media. It's beautiful. I had a question around how does a hat label get 70,000 followers on Insta, but I can sort of get it because your pics are beautiful. But social media, the nature of it, you do depict your best life. And you guys do that more than depicting your worst life. And I get that, but what's your view on all of that?
So if you have a look at our Instagram stories, they probably depict our real life more. So we have quite a strict policy with the curation of our Instagram feed because we both love really good photography.
Yep.
But we share a lot of our personal stories and the brand's personal behind the scenes stuff through our stories. So we're kind of comfortable in having those two different platforms.
Oh, that's a great distinction. So your stories are real. They're on the move. They're authentic, and then your Insta feed is that the terminology? Is where you're sharing the what would you call it? It's not glitzy. It's just the more kind of manicured.
I reckon the Instagram feed's more art to us.
Yes.
Yeah, like that's kind of like our art that we love. But like, so for instance, when our van broke down, we did like a 3-minute video of like us talking to our mechanic and what was going on, and we put that up on our Instagram story, and that got really good engagement. And people were like, "Oh my God, do you need help? Do you need somewhere to stay?" And it was really nice.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And it's kind of a nice outlet for us. So it's more about the behind the scenes, and it's a bit less curated, and it's easier for us to communicate with our audience on that those different platforms. Like being very curated on the front end of Instagram is actually a really difficult task, but being real and honest and a little less polished on the back end is a really nice outlet for us.
So with the art, as you call it, that you send out on your Insta feed, I mean, they're beautiful photographs. Clearly you both are into photography. Is there a plan? Do you sort of, you're driving across the Nullarbor and really plotting and planning what that next pic's going to look like, and then is the setup like a proper shoot or?
No. Nothing's real. So like an example would be the kids shoot.
Yeah, some of our best content is just trips that we organise with friends and family. So we're launching a new kids range coming out very soon, actually, and we just did a trip from through Victoria to SA with Loz's niece and nephew, and it was 10 days.
10 days, and so we plan out, instead of planning photo shoots, we try to plan like week-long trips with people so the content we get is more authentic and we actually have had a good time getting it.
Got it.
And it turns out to be so much better than just planning a day photo shoot with models.
Yeah, we've tried both, to be honest. Like, and what we feel most comfortable with like putting out is the real authentic travel stuff, the stuff that we're on the trip with them, we're experiencing it, and it comes through in the models, or it comes through in the non-models, because they're having such a good time that they forget about the camera. So it's like it feels way more authentic than we could have ever imagined.
So you guys are smashing Instagram. What role Facebook and Pinterest?
Facebook we do use Facebook, and we do a lot of ads on Facebook as well, like digital marketing.
Yeah. I mean, look, like I think for us, largely Instagram was the first entry point for anyone.
It's kind of where we feel comfortable.
It's where we feel comfortable, but really what else is driving our growth is like online advertising as well.
Yeah, like Google ads.
Yeah. Making sure our SEO is up to scratch, all that sort of stuff. So we invest heavily in our
and
website.
we do a lot of
email
marketing as well.
Tell me about that, because I hear business owners go, "Oh, email marketing, that's dead. We're all spammed. Our inboxes are full." What makes your email marketing convert?
So we try to do the storytelling through the email marketing. So there's a lot of content that we have on our blog that we maybe don't share everywhere else. So I think that's the difference between email marketing and what you see here is like there's like more in-depth stories if you're interested in that.
Okay. So it's keeping it separate.
You might find stories a little bit more in depth about sustainability, or a trip that, say, our ambassador Stefan has done, like through Mongolia on horseback. And so if you really want to get a deep dive into sort of what we're about, that's probably the best spot.
Yeah, back to Facebook and Pinterest. Are they more paid advertising on those platforms versus uploading original content?
One we've never really nailed. We got Pinterest set up and we use it a fair bit, but we don't actually see much. We don't see a very good conversion, so we haven't spent a lot of time with Pinterest. It's more Facebook, Google, and Instagram for us.
Interesting. What about content marketing? Blogging, YouTube, anything like that?
Well, the plan is to start a YouTube channel because we're gonna do a story about the working from the road, but it's also like we said, we didn't want to take on too much and we're just two little people. We just have to find time for it, or we're thinking of maybe hiring a videographer to help us with that. But YouTube is definitely something we want to do. Yeah.
YouTube, I think for us would be one of the biggest platforms for us to invest in. I think it'd go really well for us.
Well, it's actually crazy. When we were on the road with my niece and nephew, they're so little and they use YouTube.
Yeah.
They use YouTube, and I think there's something in that like a lot of the younger people.
It's a little bit scary, but it's probably just the way it's going.
No doubt. Loz, I'm going to ask you both, but Loz, what's the most favourite part? You're 3 years out of being a mortgage broker. What do you most love about running the business that you have these days?
I love the community the most. So when I started it, one of the reasons I wanted to start it was to be able to involve the people around me in something that makes kind of everyone's life better. And I love that now I get to go on trips with like my niece and nephew, and my sister is one of our employees also. She's our customer service employee, and she has more freedom because she works for us and she gets to be involved in it, and that's definitely my favourite part.
Alex?
I always wanted to sort of have a business that gives back, and I think that adding the tree planting project that we haven't really touched on, but yeah, that was always been a big goal for me, something that can contribute to greater society rather than just being a personal thing. I think that's really important for businesses.
We haven't touched on it, and what it is, for one hat sold, you plant 10 trees in Africa, and I think up to now you've got 10 hectares of trees planted in Africa. Is that right?
Up to now it is, I was going to check out.
Well, the number of trees is 400,000 trees.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And is that, clearly for you, Alex, that's a feel-good thing. Is there a commercial reality to that? Or yeah.
I mean, I think that it's the way, I think you touched on it before about the next generation coming through. I think they're a bit more aware of this stuff, and they want to be able to give back as well. And it really is a platform for our customers as well. Like for them to know that we're willing to put money up for these causes, and that potentially buying a hat can contribute, I think that's really wonderful.
That's awesome.
And the programs that we donate to are largely environmental, but there's also humanitarian. That the tree plantations provide food for a lot of hungry people in Africa as well. So it's a really complex, interesting ecosystem that's over there. And us visiting them last year was one of the most amazing experiences.
Well, guys, I think it's a great story. It's a business in the making, 3 years in. I think we should talk 3 years down the track once you got your gearbox fixed and you're back on the road. But
Thanks, mate. It might be 3 years until it's fixed.
That's right. Well, for now, all I can say is hats off to you.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, mate. Yeah.
Well, there you go, team. Hat entrepreneurs Loz Williams and Alex Knorr of Will and, that's A-N-D, bear.com. Go and check them out. Hey, are you envious about their lifestyle, or couldn't you think of anything worse? I'd love to know what you think about that. I think they're doing okay. They seem to be enjoying themselves, and the photos on their Insta reflect that. But I'd love to hear what you think. Leave a comment in the show notes. I'll shortly let you know about a new podcast I'm launching, but first, thanks to American Express and digital marketing agency Yellow, here's what grabbed my attention from that chat with Loz and Alex. Attention grabber number one. I think it's just so refreshing to hear a business owner acknowledge that it's okay to slow things down. To ask themselves, how much is enough? How big do we really want to be? And how funny to hear that the minute they did this, they put the foot on the brake, things took off. Love that. Attention grabber number two. I like the way they're using their Instagram feed for the more polished visuals, or as they call it, art, and their Instagram stories for the real life stuff, like the chat with the mechanic after their van broke down. Which kind of raises the question, if I did that, what behind-the-scenes stuff would you like to see from this show? Tell me. Hit me up on Twitter. Keep it to 140 characters. At Timbo Reid, R-E-I-D. Let me know what you'd like to see. And attention grabber number three. I love the way they launched the business by sending their top 100 favourite photographers a hat each. No hard sell, just a genuine gesture in the hope that the photographers may respond with a hashtagged photo on their own feed. And guess what? They did. Love it. That's what grabbed my attention. Love to know what grabbed yours. Love to know whether you love their lifestyle or not. Love to know what behind-the-scenes stuff you'd like to see from this show on my Insta. Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/468 and let me know. So I'm excited to announce that a new podcast I'm hosting is just around the corner, launching later in July 2019. It's called the Idea Exchange, and in Season 1, you are going to meet 10 of Australia's most inspiring entrepreneurs, including, check this out for a list, Kiki K's Christina Carlson, Showpo's Jane Liu, and Booktopia's Tony Nash, who take us deep inside how they've built their burgeoning empires. In fact, for the last few months, I've been travelling around Australia, spending time with each of those guests inside their business. So face-to-face interviews inside their business allows me to get a feel for where they live, what they do, and I get to eyeball them as I'm chatting with them, which I always think makes for a better interview. We cover all aspects of their empires, including how they manage their business and financial operations, the growth strategies that work for them, how they attract and retain great talent and build world-class cultures within their business, as well as get their views on the all-important aspect of business, which is work-life balance, one which is often forgotten. The podcast is part of a bigger national concept, also called the Idea Exchange, which is supported by American Express. It's fronted by Shark Andrew Banks, and it's hosted by yours truly. And it includes live seminars and workshops across Australia in August and September each year, as well as up-to-the-minute articles helping you get control of all aspects of your business. How good's that? So the podcast is just one aspect of the overall Idea Exchange. I'm pretty excited about it. It'll be available where all good podcasts are found: iTunes, Stitcher, all the third-party podcast apps, SoundCloud. But for now, know that the Idea Exchange is just around the corner. Sit tight, and I'll let you know the minute it's launched.
Come on down. It's Timbo's Monster Prize Draw.
Oh, yes, indeedly doodly. It's time to reward another motivated listener for taking some swift marketing action. And today's winner is... Shane Scrutton of Eaglemont Tennis Club in Victoria. And Shane says, "Hey Timbo, I've picked up a lot of ideas from your show, but probably the most effective has been to write my website copy in a more conversational, relaxed language without all the jargon and hyperbole other tennis coaching websites gravitate towards. In other words, trying to use the same sort of tone and language that I would use if I was talking to someone about tennis. This has helped my website climb up the Google charts immensely. Thanks for your help. Cheers, Shane." Shane, that's a great lesson, mate. Why would we change our language when we're writing marketing copy? Just why don't we write like we speak to our clients and our prospects? You got it in one, Shane, and for doing that, for implementing it, for listening to my show, let me reward you with a full range of Liar's non-alcoholic spirits valued at over $500. You get a $50 Sendor voucher, $100 Tradie Undies voucher, $50 Sant and Abel PJs voucher, $100 to spend at Canning's Butchers, $250 to use at promotional products business Good Things, a My DNA test kit, that's $99, an Orbit kit, $49, $75 voucher to use at the On-The-Go sports merchandise business, a gift pack of novelty socks from Put a Sock On It for $18. You get promotion on this show and a backlink in the show notes. Hey, how's that? We might have to speed up the way I read those prizes. They're getting longer and longer. Goodness me. Well done to you, young tennis coach friend Shane. Well, he's not a friend because I don't really know him, but you know what I'm saying. He's a listener of the show and therefore is a friend. You can be a friend too, and you can win by simply sending me an email, tim@timreid.com.au. Tell me one idea you've implemented from listening to this show, what impact it's had on your business. If I read it out on air, you win. Whew. Well, that was a big show. Interesting interview, new podcast launch, listener awarded prizes. Tick, tick, tick. It almost wraps up episode 468 of the award-winning Small Business Big Marketing Show, thanks to digital marketing agency Yellow and American Express. You can check out Yellow's suite of products to get your beautiful business found online over at yellow.com.au. You can check out Amex's very nice range of business cards by searching Amex Business. I have some pretty cool interviews coming up in the next few weeks, including the founder of Canva. If you don't know what Canva is, check out it. CANVA. Very cool graphic design tool for small business owners. Her name is Melanie Perkins and is one of Australia's leading entrepreneurs. Don't forget, there's an entire back catalogue of interviews over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, where you can also buy my marketing book, The Boomerang Effect. If you love the Small Business Big Marketing Show, please let others know about it any which way you can. Until next week, I'm Timbo Reid. Thanks for tuning in. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing. Bye for now.